Uh, we've gone over the good. Now it's time for the bad. And might add the ugly section, like the other section, the conflict section that we'll get to. That is more of the bad stuff, but this stuff it's pretty bad, pretty bad. So I haven't marked this into sections like I did the other one because that one was a lot more. There was a lot more of the supportive stuff, but this one really. It's two events mainly. So the first one, again, this is mainly with when they're in a relationship, sorts of behaviors. So the first one is when Ross makes a list on the computer of reasons to not be with Rachel. So he's choosing between Rachel and Julie, which, well. I mean, we've all been there. Hopefully, at least I don't know if "hopefully" is the right word, but we've all been there at one time in our lives. A lot of people have, where you have to choose between, something. Now, the hope is that you're not choosing between your current girlfriend and someone else. The hope is that you're choosing between two people you're seeing non-exclusively. But for Ross, that was not the case. Now, to me. Yeah, it seemed like, obviously, Julie and him had a lot in common. Like, it seemed like they had a good rapport, whatever. But with Rachel, it was like, oh, like, she's the one. I've been in love with her since I was in high school, that sort of thing, right? To me, yeah, it's stupid. Like, firstly, if you're going to make a list, do it at home. Why are you doing it at a shared apartment next to the apartment where your girlfriend is? And with your friends, like, I know we're trying to help him out, help him decide, and I think that's completely, like, for the record, him being conflicted is completely valid. Him having conflicting thoughts is valid, but the way he went about it, like making a list and then saying, making a physical representation of it's like that's a little skeevy, whatever you want to call it. Wasn't great, especially if you spent years hounding after her and then she's in your life and you're like, oh, well, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it just didn't seem to make any sense. Like, oh, now you don't know? I don't know. It just seemed strange. Anyways, and then she finds out and flips out and, you know.
Imagine the worst things you think about yourself. Now, how would you feel if the one person that you trusted the most in the world not only thinks them too, but actually uses them as reasons not to be with you?
So Ross, he fucks up, right? He messes up. He makes this list, and she finds out, and I don't know. It's like, what is he more wrong for? The fact that she found out, or the fact that he made it? Well, it's kind of both. It's like you were so haphazard. Like, come on, like just figure it out, or just be with her. Like, I don't know why it's so difficult for you to just not like decide, or to already have decided. Like, you think this girl's the one. There's no. I don't understand. Like, how does this happen, right? So anyway, and then he goes to all these lengths to try and get back with her, which is kind of sweet in one regard, but it's funny. Like he goes to the radio station, gets them to play a song for her, and then she calls, and then they like, I don't want to play your song anymore. Super funny, right? And he shows like just how much he wants to be with her, but like she said it perfectly. I wouldn't have made a list, and that's all you needed to know. So, yeah, he was just really reckless, emotionally reckless, by making that list. So, anyway, yeah, you shouldn't have done that. That was bad. That was embarrassing. Then the rest of the stuff that's bad, it really comes down to Mark. It comes down to Mark and Rachel's friendship, if you will. So, there's multiple issues that come up. Number one, let's just get out of the way, that eventually Ross is proven correct when Mark asks Rachel out after they break up. That's the whole issue with the whole thing, right? we all should be able to trust our partner. We should all be able to give people the benefit of the doubt. If Ross, is healthy, he should be able to say, you know what, Rachel, if you say that this guy doesn't have ulterior motives and isn't trying to sleep with you, his friendship's genuine, he legitimately wants to be platonic friends with you, okay, I'll believe you, I trust you. I trust you. And that's the end of the conversation, right? So like when she brings up, oh yeah, this guy Mark got me the job, like he like whatever, that's how the conversation should have been. Like, oh, okay, that's cool. Mark's friend, yeah, all right, well, yeah, cool, and that's how it should have ended. Ross should not have gotten, shouldn't have flipped out the way he did and gotten super jealous and making it everyone's thing. Like, he just has this need to put his foot in his mouth and make it everyone else's problem, and also be insanely passive aggressive and cringe. That's just for lack of a better term about it. Like at the party that they're having, like, oh, sounds like Mark wants to have some sex. And then he's like laughing about it to Monica, like, did you hear this thing? It's so crazy, right? Like, come on, bro, grow up. Like, it's not that funny. Like, I like, we can all see what you're doing. Like, just, So, yeah, I think that Ross did an absolutely trash job at hiding his jealousy. Like, we're all allowed to feel a little jealous or to feel a little insecure. We're all human. I get that. But the way that he went about expressing himself was really poor. I think that, like we mentioned that conversation earlier on the couch at Central Perk where Ross opens up about, being left, his past marriage where he gets left and his wife, leaves him. He should have brought that up at the jump and said, hey, like, this is why I'm feeling a little jealous. And I really need you to be supportive and cognizant and, like, mindful of this because this really hurt me and I'm working through it, but I need you to help me through this sort of thing. And he also should have done the work himself too. He should have said, hey, I'm working through this, like, I'm doing what I can, but I need some support from you too to help me get through this. And she should be like, yeah, for sure. Like, I get it. Like, I'm sure that was a really hard breakup, and your trust, you might have some trust issues. Like, I want to make sure that I'm doing whatever I can to support you, while also, making, having a friend, because men and women can be friends. They can be friends, as long as boundaries are followed. Boundaries, I know, is it's a term that can be abused by Jonah Hill and others, but basically it's just not crossing any lines, bro. It's not crossing any lines and making something that's platonic into something that's romantic. And so we see a couple of times where, I don't know if it's like just because we saw it from Ross's perspective, but where there might have been a blurring or a crossing of the lines in their relationship. Mark specifically. So, like, multiple instances that are from the outside looking in, like, it's kind of bad. Like, for example, Ross tries to take her out to lunch, and she's like, oh no, like, Mark's taking me out to lunch on my first day as, like, a congrats thing. And it's like, okay, that's like, it's like, okay, it's borderline, right? It's like, all right, it's understandable, like, the guy who got you the job wants to, like, take you out on the first, sure, okay, fine, right, no big deal. What I think bumped me more was when Mark answers her phone, and Ross is like, hey, can I talk to Rachel? And he's like, oh, who is this? He's like, Ross is like, oh, who's Ross? Just kind of being an asshole. And it's just like, dude, like, that's her boyfriend. And the fact that Rachel hadn't made that clear, like, hey, like, my boyfriend's Ross, or like, hey, don't answer my phone, please, like, respect my space. Like, that upset me. Like Rachel let Mark get a little too comfortable, and I didn't like that. I didn't like how comfortable he felt in their friendship. Just kind of just like do whatever. I feel like whenever I have girlfriends that have boyfriends or partners, I feel like I like go to extra mile to be extra respectful because I know that I wouldn't want someone to do that to my girlfriend or partner. So Anyway, so that started off. You see this like these little microaggressions of disrespect where Mark's like, "Oh, Ross, who?" And he has to kind of like justify himself, like of Ross and Rachel. So you get and then also to go back, you get the hug. So I want to break this down. You see these little things, these little microaggressions, right? These little events that mean a lot, though. So you get, the phone call thing. That's already, not great. Then when Rachel even gets the job, Mark says, "Hey, good job. Congrats, you have the job." Who does Rachel hug? She doesn't hug Ross first. She hugs Mark. And I know it shouldn't be a big deal, but it kind of is. Like, if you get a job, the first person who you should celebrate with should be your boyfriend. And she goes and hugs Mark. It's like, what the hell? Like that's not right. Like your boyfriend came all the way down, to surprise you with a little flower and be all cutesy and shit, and you're gonna hug this rando. It's okay to be, appreciative of the opportunity, but come on, like that's your boyfriend. Like you should hug him first. And so you see Ross like, "Oh, congratulations!" He's feeling all awkward and like, God, it's cringe. But anyway, so there's that, right? So you got the missed hug, you got the phone call, and yeah. So you see these little things, right? And it's just it's just so cringe. But yeah, anyway. So then you see Ross, feel threatened. So he feels threatened from all these things that are happening. And so he then goes way overboard. He crosses the line and just dumps like 1,000 gifts on her desk of him, like a love bug and like photos of him, and sending a barbershop quartet. Hilarious. Like, just, I gotta listen to the song.
1, 2, 3. Congratulations on your first week at your brand new job. It won't be long before you're the boss. And you know who will be there to support you. Your one and only boyfriend.
It's nice to have a boyfriend.
Your loyal, loving boyfriend, Ross.
So just an absolute hilarious. Oh my god, it's just so funny. I love that scene. But yeah, like just and Rachel called him out for it. She was 100% right on it. But she's like, yeah, you were like marking your territory, and it was 100% true. Marking his territory because he felt threatened by Mark. And obviously we didn't know at the time, but he, his. He shouldn't have done that. Let's just, multiple things can be true. Ross shouldn't have done that. Ross should have handled his insecurity better. At the same token, like, Mark was a dick and clearly had feelings for Rachel and kept them hidden and was just waiting out their relationship. And so they were friends. He was just disingenuous. And he wasn't being a genuine friend. So, two things can be true. So I'm not saying Ross's insecurities were valid, but it kind of was validated when Mark asked her out. And I think that's really lame. I think it's lame because, you should be able to trust your partner. You should be able to trust what she says and says, hey, like this guy, he's not just trying to get at me. He's trying to be, he's trying to, be nice. He's trying to be a friend. And so, Mark ruins the integrity of friendship by getting with, trying to get at her. And so I guess that's the thing, is from a man's perspective, I mean, you hear that all the time. And it's the unfortunate reality of men ruining friendships, ruining, intersex friendships where, men and women can't be friends because these men keep messing it up. And it's pissing me off. No, but I mean, it does piss me off. But it's the issue, like you can't, you can't erode the integrity of it because it just ruins it. And I know a lot of men think, oh well, like I know how men think, and men aren't that genuine. And so like, you don't want to say, oh well, Ross is right. Like, oh well, he was right. He was proven right. So what he did was justified. It wasn't. You can say to your partner, hey, some of these things that Mark does make me uncomfortable.
Yeah, but even so.
And you can voice that. Now it's up to your partner to decide whether or not they're going to do anything about it. And so I don't know. Like you can't control anybody. You can't. He couldn't control how Rachel acts, even though he tried. What you can do is just be secure in your relationship. You can communicate. Say, hey, like I know, I'm feeling a little triggered by your and Mark's friendship. Some of the things he's done, made me feel a little insecure. That's not your fault. It's not your problem. I know you think, I know you're trying to be a genuine friend with him, and I respect that, and I'll respect that, with my actions. But I just want to communicate my feelings. So a lot. You want to talk about corrections. Ross. He does talk to his friends about it, which that's good. But he thinks he can make Mark go away, or he thinks that he can just tear their friendship up, and it's just never going to work. And that's what Joey says, where he's like, oh yeah, like. Jealousy is like I said, it's pervasive. It's very toxic, and it can get it can spiral. It can make you really spiral. So I think Ross, really should have nipped it in the bud from the start, but he didn't. So yeah, there's the bad. So I know we kind of glanced over some of these things, but we'll really get into the ugly here in a second. But yeah, so a lot of jealousy on Ross's part. Some jealousy on Rachel's part too. Also, like the moment with where Ross meets the stripper and they have a play date or whatever, and she like makes out with him to ensure he remembers her. Like, oh, remember who you're with. I think that's also pretty funny, but it's not it's not horrible, but it's a little skeevy. So. Anyway, that's been the bad. So now let's get to the ugly.